Hi, Dave at the range here. I want to give you a little lesson on basic firearms safety. I've unloaded the gun. No magazine. I've looked down the chamber. There's nothing in there. This leads us to rule number 1. Treat all guns or firearms as loaded. Now, you just saw me unload this Glock 17. That being said, I'm not going to treat it any differently than if it was completely loaded and ready to fire. I'm not going to treat it any differently. I'm not going to play around with it. I'm not going to fool around with it. I'm not going to point it in an unsafe direction. I'm going to continue to treat it as if it's loaded and ready to fire, even though it's empty. The reason why is every firearms accident, every negligent discharge of a firearm, I could guarantee the first thing out of the person's mouth is, I thought it was unloaded. So, let's not have any accidents by treating all guns, regardless of their condition, as if they are loaded and ready to fire. Second, never point at anything you are not willing to destroy. Pointed in this direction. Now, I want to keep it intentionally pointed at a safe direction, which is usually actually at an angle to the ground. And I want to be really careful about that and not point it at myself, not point it at any other person around me. And when I'm looking at the gun, I need to be careful. Even looking at it like this, well, what's over there? Where's the gun pointed right now? I need to be aware of where the gun is pointed and keep that gun oriented in a safe direction. I can actually move my body to look at this gun to keep it pointed in a safe direction. Need to be aware at all time. Imagine there is a laser beam, a deadly laser beam coming out of this barrel at all times, and I need to be careful that I don't touch anything that I don't want to shoot or destroy or harm with that laser beam. So I have to be careful of where that barrel, where that muzzle is pointed. Muzzle and where the gun is pointed is sort of the same thing. 3, keep the finger off the trigger until on target, ready to shoot. This is a tough one because every Hollywood movie you see, the actors are running around with their fingers on the trigger. Also, every toy gun you've ever played with, every squirt gun you've ever picked up, every bottle of Windex you've ever used, our hand is used to being just like this. So, you have to learn to, when you pick up a gun, when you're handling a gun, that your finger goes above the trigger guard right along the frame just like this. Whether it's a revolver, whether it's a semi-automatic, whether it's a rifle, whether it's a shotgun, this is where the finger goes until you're actually on target and ready to shoot. As soon as you come off target or you decide you're not going to shoot anymore, that finger needs to come off the trigger. Again, this is a hard lesson to learn because we're dealing with muscle memory. And your muscle memory, your default muscle memory right now is to put that finger on the trigger. You have to teach your finger that's where it goes. One of the best practices you can have at home when we talk about dry fire practice is just this practice. On target, off target, on target, off target. And teach that finger that this is where you need to go. This is critical because there are several things that can make this trigger finger do this without conscious input. Losing your balance, being startled, or even simply an overflow where you're grasping with this hand over here and this hand is automatically, without conscious thought, constricting back here. And if your finger is on the trigger, this gun is going to go off without you intending it to go off. So, critical. Finger off the trigger until you're on target and ready to shoot. And finally, 4 is know your target and what is beyond and beside it. Now, you think about, well, you're going to the range, we're shooting at paper, and beyond it is chipped up rubber tires. That's what you're shooting into. It's pretty safe. But imagine you're out in the woods and you decide to do a little plinking. Maybe it's an area where it's legal to do a little plinking with your .22 or something, so you set some tin cans up on a log. Well, what is beyond? What is behind those tin cans? Is it another campsite? A lot to think about. Maybe you're home at night and you hear your front door crash open. and you hear footsteps coming down your dark hallway. Is it a bad guy or is it a family member? A lot to think about. You have to know what your target is before you point a gun at it, and definitely before you pull that trigger. Perhaps it is a bad guy that's coming into your home, down that hallway. Well, what's beyond, what's behind the bad guy? Is it your kid's room? A lot to think about. You've got to know where that bullet's going to go when you decide to pull the trigger. Even before, when you decide to put your finger on the trigger, you've got to think about where that bullet can eventually go. So, just to review, these quick rules, 4 rules of firearm safety. 1, treat all guns as loaded. 2, never point at anything you are not willing to destroy, or said another way, keep that barrel, that muzzle pointed in a safe direction. 3, keep your finger off the trigger until you're on target and ready to shoot. And 4, know your target, what is beyond it and what is beside it. I hope this helps, and if you know somebody that maybe is new to a gun or just bought a gun, a lot of people buying handguns and rifles for the first time, please tag them, forward this to them so that they can just get a foot in the door for firearm safety. If you have any questions, come on into the range and ask any of our employees. We are more than happy to talk to new gun owners about firearm safety and about how to use their firearms. So until then, we'll see you at the range.